Hey guys, welcome to another module in the Energizing Sleep Challenge. Today, we're going to cover something that's going to make you stress-proof. You're going to be the stress-proof superhero who will be calm in the worst of situation. You'll be composed and you'll be able to command yourself and your team to succeed in all adversities. Yes, maybe not quite there in one session, but you will make a step towards that vision. And we are going to cover a super tool for the highest performing leaders that has been actually been studied. It's called mindfulness. Now, mindfulness, in my mind, is much more than just a sleep hack. It's so much more. But in the context of what we're trying to achieve today, it's about managing emotions that impact sleep. So we're going to focus on that. Now, if you're listening to this session while doing something else, while driving, while maybe doing chores, I'll suggest that you stop, come back to it when you can find a dedicated time to actually join this session. We will be actually leading you through an actual mindfulness practice which requires concentration. It's not something you can do while doing something else because you are going to train your brain. You're going to recondition your brain to develop new neural pathways that's going to help you become much more composed and much more calm, whatever the circumstance may be. Okay? So I'll give you a time to pause, and that is your last chance. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. I'm going to assume you've paused and you're in the right place. So let me just get out of your way. Mindfulness secret to managing emotions that impact sleep. In earlier module, we covered that a lot of reason why we can't get sleep or we wake up in the middle of the night, we can't fall back asleep, is because of the stress anxiety either experienced during the day or even the stress anxiety with the inability to sleep. So managing that and be able to control it is powerful for creating high quality rest and rejuvenation in the night. So today, we're going to cover quite a few things. What will you discover today? Let me play that by you. Why does mindfulness help you in creating high quality sleep? I think I already mentioned a little bit about that. I'm not going to go too much into how it helps sleep, but I will go over in a little bit of detail what mindfulness is and just exactly how it helps you in all aspects of life. We're going to be actually doing and developing your mindfulness skills. We'll be doing some brain training as covered earlier, so make sure you're in a quiet spot that you can focus and concentrate on this particular session, and we'll cover some actions for you to take today. Okay, so that is today's session. Why does mindfulness help, you ask? Well, there are sleep benefits. And as you can see, let me just make this a little bit larger for you. Oops. When you actually practice mindfulness, you're calmer throughout the day, even in the worst of circumstances, even when things aren't going as you expect, that you will remain calm, which actually help you think clearer. Faster recovery from sleep disruption. As you know, we mentioned about people feeling anxious or inability to sleep, especially if you've got a big day tomorrow. You can't sleep. You get anxious. Oh, I got a big day. I got to get to sleep. And that's actually not helping you fall asleep because you become anxious about your ability to sleep. And that when you have mindfulness, it's actually going to help you with that. It's actually going to help you make you happier. Mindfulness is a happiness skill. So there's a book called 10% Happier. I suggest you check out. It's a story of a news anchorman who literally had a public emotional meltdown on national TV. And he went through his own self-discovery of what is creating that frozen segment where he was just overwhelmed. And how he used that as an opportunity to practice mindfulness which actually made him a whole lot happier and more in control. So being happy is going to help you with sleep, right? I think you can see the connection. And of course, a whole host of other benefits. So let's have a look. When you're mindful, you become clearer. You'll be able to see the goals. You'll get clarity of where you want to head towards and why. You get better relationship because you're much better at managing your emotion, as well as to become aware of the emotion of others. Often it's what they don't say that matters most. For example, if you ask your partner, how's your day? And your partner says, yeah, it's okay. Versus, it's okay. Can you hear the difference, right? Sometimes if we're not mindful, we missed it. We completely missed it because your partner may be very good at hiding the subtle emotions they're going through, and they just want to make you feel good. And therefore, we miss a key important information, which is not good for a relationship. And being able to see that more clearly allow you to better support your partner. And of course, vice versa, getting better support for yourself. So I made that quite obvious for you to see, but in reality, sometimes those things are subtle things, are very hard to notice if you're not mindful. Clarity of strength and weaknesses, being able to see what you're really good at, is helping you develop and helping you choose the stuff that where you're going to thrive. Understanding your weakness, of course, help you identify the development opportunities. Strong leadership, and there's a whole host of things. Emotional intelligence, and there's a ton of research done by Daniel Goleman, working with some of the world's biggest consultancies and management firms and enterprises. It's irrefutable, so irrefutable that Google incorporated mindfulness into their executive training and eventually rolled out to the entire company. So Rich Fernandez was a former director of executive education. He brought mindfulness together with Chapman Tang into Google, and that's how much they value the power of mindfulness to develop high quality leadership. Okay, so that's enough benefit, but what is mindfulness? This is how I see it. As you can see, it's an enhanced awareness, like a spider sense. You just feel the spider sits in the middle of its web and it's sensing, it's feeling all the vibrations, what is around them. It's a spider sense of all things, but with curiosity, openness, and non-judgment. So it can see things, it's aware of it, it knows exactly what to do rather than being overwhelmed by what they see. Sometimes you're aware of something, but because it triggers so much sense of dread, it could be a sense of overwhelm over the years as your mind tries to protect itself, it becomes numb. It stops seeing those things. And that is creating a problem. It's like you trying to drive while blindfolded. Just because you don't sense it doesn't mean you're not going to have a crash. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. But that is what it is. What can you become more aware of? Your strength, growth opportunities, your purpose and your value, motivation in others. How you can, what are others really thinking about, what's driving them, helping you better lead your team. Solution to tricky problems, it helps you see out-of-box solution that's invisible to anyone, but because you're more mindful, you can see the invisible. It's a superpower. And why people act the way they do. So a ton of benefits. Hopefully I've convinced you enough that mindfulness is a fantastic superpower to develop. So how do you actually go about developing awareness? Now, there are two forms of practice, and we're going to cover them both. This is where you got to find a quiet spot, because we are actually going to kick off this practice in this very video. It's called open awareness practice. It's a form of what we call a dedicated practice in the mindfulness arena. So what is a dedicated practice? The analogy is, it's like you're a professional football player, A professional football player needs to perform on the football field. That's a given. But do they only play football? No, right? A football player does not only play football as a way to get better, they also go to the gym. They get on the treadmill. They lift weights. They practice kicking. They do all this boring conditioning so that when they get on the field, they can perform better. They can bring out the best performance. That dedicated practice where you're in the gym, building your muscle, it's the same as a dedicated mindfulness practice. This is where you need to dedicate your focus because you're training your brain to actually get good at being mindful. So when it comes to the situation where you put under a tremendous amount of stress, that is when you get to use your brain muscles, your new neural circuits. So we're taking advantage. You would have heard this neuroplasticity, right? You're rewiring your brain by training this. So this is what a dedicated practice. After this, I'm going to show you a integrated practice, which is what you do on the field, what you do in this situation. But right now, we're going to just spend a few minutes doing a dedicated practice. Okay? All right, let's begin. So the way this is going to work is you're going to find, like the picture shown, just a comfortable position to sit. This is a regular chair. Find a quiet spot, and for the next 5 minutes or so, you just have to be free from free from interruptions, free from your mobile phone. Turn your phone into flight mode, and you're just going to find a spot to sit comfortably. Are you ready? Sit comfortably. You have your feet flat on the ground, your hands on the side. And we're going to practice some breathing exercise together. Let's begin. Now, start sitting in your chair, body upright, spine erect, and hands on your legs. If you feel safe to do so, you can close your eyes. And just take a few moments, just taking a few deep breaths. Just breathing in and breathing out. Now, if you don't feel like closing your eyes, that's fine. Just try and lower your gaze. I want you to just spend a moment to breathe. Focus inwards, not the distraction, not what you're going to do next, not what happened previously. Just focus in the moment. Take a minute, just settle yourself, just a few breaths. As you breathe in, as you feel you breathe out, just let go of any worries and tensions, any judgment, just experience. We are going to do a practice that's based on neuroscience and emotional intelligence development, and we're going to practice mindfulness. It's a practice that's delivered to over 50 countries around the world with hundreds and thousands of people. As you begin to breathe, just notice where you feel your breath the strongest. Is it your nostrils? Is it your lungs? Where do you feel that breath? And just use that as a bit of an anchor point. Whenever thoughts, sensations arise, just return your attention back to noticing the breath. So breathing in and breathing out. Just notice and follow this miracle that is your breathing. Now we're going to practice a noting skill. Don't worry about what it is. I'm going to guide you through the process. I invite you to ease any sense of effort that you must feel and simply to continue sitting and breathing. You might consider allowing your mind to be relaxed, but yet you're alert, you're perceptive. Now, it might sound really, really strange to you, but you are actually not trying to make anything happen. So just let go of any desire or the need to behave or think a particular way, and let's just go with the flow. You can think of this as just being and just sitting. And as you breathe in, you breathe out, you probably notice maybe you have thoughts about lunch, thoughts about emotions, or maybe you heard something. Maybe it's the temperature, is it hot or cold? Can you see if you can make a mental note every few seconds about your general mental and emotional condition? Just give it a short label and acknowledge it and welcome it. You might say to yourself, thinking. Okay, I'm thinking. Tingling in the hands. Or remembering something. Oh, I gotta do something. And so on. Just note it. Call it, label, give it a label. And go on. There's nothing to do. And back to your breath. What is your mental, emotional weather system like right now? Is there a way or word that describes it? Perhaps you're sunny. Maybe you feel like a rainy day. Whatever comes up, see what it feels like not having to fix it or change it. Just simply watch it go by, like standing on a platform and watching a train pass by. And if you notice that it's hard to stay present, you're drifting away, just let your attention rest on the anchor that we established earlier, where you feel your breath the strongest. It could be a sound as well, if that's your anchor. Now, allowing even a little more ease in the mind and body, you might consider the phrase, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do other than being here doing this. If something comes up, just noting it. I notice I have to do something. Oh, I notice this. Just notice and let it go. Each time something catches your attention, name it before you take it too far, or before it takes you too far. When you catch a thought, what would it be like to shift from being the thought? For example, you might think, I'm worried. That's being in the thought, to being aware that you're experiencing the thought, maybe the worry. Just being, noting anything that catches your attention. Now, let's bring this practice to a close. I invite you to drop this noting practice that we've been doing and simply rest your mind and be here, whatever that means to you. Just being just as you are. Okay. Now let's bring this practice to a close. And whenever you're ready, allow your eyes to fully open and return your attention to the room. Okay, how was that? So this practice that we've just been through is a neural brain training. You're practicing to notice things around you and noting it without reacting. It's just like when you notice you're being triggered or you can't sleep. Can you note that you can't sleep and accept and be at ease? Not doing anything, not changing anything, but just being. Can you see that helps you remove that stress and anxiety? And ultimately, just being is going to help you sleep better. It's going to help you become more composed. So this is a practice where if you do this on a regular basis, you're going to train your brain to have a new state of normal. So the next time you feel stressed, you can't sleep, you already feel like that. This is your normal. Today, it may not feel so normal because you come from a state where you're being so used to this stress anxiety that you think it's actually normal to react with stress anxiety. But over time, as you change and remodel your brain, you can start to think differently. And when you have stress anxiety, the normal state of being is really to note, detach, and be okay. And therefore, you're not so reactive anymore. I hope you enjoyed this session because for me, this is one of the most impactful experience I have tried. And there's so many things I've tried in the past. It's powerful. Don't underestimate the simplicity of this practice. And I highly recommend you do this. Use this recording, if you will, with your friends. Share them with your friends. Do it with your family. It is not difficult. It only takes minutes. And it is used by the top performers in Silicon Valley, in Fortune 500 companies, to actually bring the best version of themselves to every single situation. Okay, so Ray Dalio, the founder of the world's largest hedge fund, does this. So does so many numerous high performers. The founder of Salesforce. Okay, it's used by news anchors. It's used by sports people. So I hope I don't have to keep on. Actually, go and research. Find out who practices mindfulness, and you'll find some really, really important names. I'll leave this at that. Okay, so that is a dedicated practice. Now, the other practice is something you do in this situation. So we talked about going to the gym. Now we talk about playing on the field. And playing on the field means you have to have the muscle to use on the field. But this is now where you just need a reminder, a bit of an anchor for which you can recall and use those muscles in the way that you desire. So what I'm going to show you is a form of psychological anchoring of your mental state. It's very similar to what they practice in NLP, where they look to anchor a particular emotional state to an action. It could be a clap, it could be a touch on the on the legs as they prepare to do something, but it's normally done with an immense amount of emotional reaction. You put yourself in such a heightened state of emotional trigger where it could be, let's say, a sense of confidence, a sense of well-being. You really put yourself in such a state, and then once you get there, you practice something. It could be a trigger action, a slap on the leg. You slap your leg, and then that means in future, and if you don't do that anchoring strong enough, next time when you feel nervous, when you feel you need to recreate that reaction, you can be as simple as just hitting your leg, and all of a sudden that emotion of confidence, of settledness just comes floating back all of a sudden. So that is what we're trying to do, except that in NLP, you really spend a prolonged period of time of anchoring, creating the anchor so that you can bring that that emotion back, that condition, high performance state on the mind. Now, you can do visualization before you tie the anchor, but what happens is when you train your awareness enough, you don't need to spend as much time visualizing and feeling the emotion and doing all through that extended process. You can try that. Go to any NLP, a good NLP course. They will tell you how to do the anchoring, but this is a mindfulness version of it. And the way it works is we're going to use your chair fabric as an anchor. Always remember what is your highest intention. So, for example, in a meeting, before the meeting, you think about, my highest intention is to help my client. Okay, if that's your highest intention, you want a way to make sure you're doing that. You bring that intention back on demand, and this is where you can use your. In this case, I'm going to use your chair. When you touch your chair, and as fabric, just feel what that feels like. Right? Practice with me. Right? Sit on a chair, just feel the fabric, feel the temperature, feel the texture, what it feels like, the softness, the hardness, the pressure on your hand. As you feel that, think about your intention to help your client. Helping my client and tying it to this fabric. And you want to spend just a few minutes just tying that attention to that fabric, to that feeling, and that's your cue. So what happens is, if you go into the meeting and the client is like rude, maybe not paying attention, maybe he's distracted, maybe your client is looking at the phone every 5 seconds and not even paying your attention, you can get triggered and say, well, he doesn't value it, like, who cares? And then you might react negatively. That's actually not good in your best interest. In this case, you can remember, hands on the fabric. Of course, you wouldn't close your eyes, but this is here. Now it's your cue. Oh, I'm here to help my client. What can I do? Right? This is where you integrate that practice. But for this to work, you need a heightened level of awareness. You have to be able to sense and remind yourself to touch the chair and know that and trigger that anchor of your greatest intention. And this is an integrated practice that you use in minutes, in a meeting, in situation. You only get good at this by doing dedicated practice, but this is how you integrate and make a meaningful difference in your everyday life. In this case, your highest intention for sleep might be simply remembering that it's okay. It's okay. There's nothing to do. It could be to remember that. In that case, where you can be touching your pillow, you could be touching your bed. But this is the use is there's so many uses and variety that you can do this with. I just leave this as a principle of tying and anchoring what you feel into a particular emotion or a particular thing you're trying to trigger. And that is how you integrate mindfulness. Let me just give you some more tips of how you can apply mindfulness in everyday life for your sleep. Okay, let me show you. So there's a saying, and let me show you. Mindfulness starts in a retreat. So that's a yoga studio, that is your yoga ashram. It could be your awareness in the mountains, in the wilderness, where you don't have distractions, where you can practice. That's great. But you really need to start to graduate in the city, because you have to apply it. Practicing is great. Escapism, it's almost like for mindfulness, right? People would not critique you. It's like, for me, it's like socially accepted drug. It escapes, but that is not where you should end. You need to go back to the city and take what you've skilled to apply it in the city. And ultimately, you can be enlightened in the courts. in front of kings, in front of stakeholders, in front of customers who are unreasonable, who may be rude, who might even be attacking you outright and being unreasonable and unfair. But yet, you've got that mindfulness to stay calm, under pressure, under the pump, and you act in the best interest for yourself and the people you're looking to help. That is what mindfulness is all about. You can go through this process. Do not just stay in a retreat and use that as a recovery, which is all fine. Just don't stop there. Think about you have to apply this in the cities, in the courts, under pressure. That is the practice. And that is a saying, it's a very ancient Taoist saying, which basically small practice is in the wilderness, middle practice is in the city, and the ultimate practice is in the courts. And that is what I've just put up in Asian characters. Okay, so we'll cover quite a bit. We've covered a dedicated practice today, and I've shown you how you actually can integrate this into your everyday life so that you can make use of it. What can you do? What's your action today? Your action today is really get out your diary right now and schedule in some dedicated practice. Remember, going to the gym is important because if all you do is play on the field, you don't have the muscles. You don't have anything to apply to use. Schedule in your dedicated practice now. And that is something of a homework to do. And tell us in the community when you're planning on doing some dedicated mindfulness practice and practice your superpowers. Even superheroes need training. And I've given you some principle of how you can integrate the practice into everyday life. You can use anchoring. You can anchor a particular thought. It could be for a meeting. It could be for sleep. It could be before you have a conversation with a partner. It could be having a conversation before you teach your kids homework, right? All sources of stress, anxiety. How would you integrate what you've learned today into it and share that in the community? And even better, share and teach what you've learned today into someone else. And I've said this for a very long time, and I think it's true. It is true. I've seen it happen. The best way to learn is to learn to teach someone. And this is where I want you to learn. I want you to take this practice, make it your own, use your own words, and practice teaching this to someone you care about, and practice this together. It's very different practicing this alone versus in a team. And there's a actual scientific reason around that, around heart coherence. I'll talk about that in a future module, but this is really important. So practice, teach it with someone. It's more fun, right? More the merrier. Of course, if you notice any improvement, what have you noticed? Share in the community, encourage your community team members. Okay, so hope you enjoy your module. And as per usual, any questions, bring it to the coaching session. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll catch you later. Take care. God bless.